Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. What do you want to be when you grow up? What is your passion in life? Which career can earn you quick money? These are some of the questions that career advisors ask students when they seek career guidance. The answer is never simple for communication students. In some disciplines like nursing or education, it might be easy to select your career path. However, not so for communication. Communication is home to public relations, development communication, broadcast journalism, print, and digital communication. Understanding your strength and weakness is a good step towards making a wise career decision. And that will be our conversation today. Our guests are media personalities who have such a huge passion for mentoring young communication students. I'm joined by Patience Nyange, all the way from the UK. Joining me from Nairobi is Ferdinand Omondi, a BBC correspondent. And from Kisumu, we are privileged to have Atieno Otieno, the Director of Communication in Kisumu County. Karibuni sana, and thank you for finding time to be with us. On to our first guest, Patience Nyange. Patience is a communications and media engagement specialist. She has over 13 years experience in broadcast journalism, public relations, communication, and social media engagement. She has worked with both local and international media houses such as the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, Citizen TV, and KBC. She is the immediate former assistant director at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. She is a council member at the Media Council of Kenya, board member and mentor at Emerging Leaders Foundation, ELF, which was recognized by former US President Barack Obama. She's a member of the Association of Media Women in Kenya, AMWIC, and the Public Relations Society of Kenya. Patience is passionate about women and girls' rights, specifically the promotion of women's voices and empowerment. She has a bachelor's degree in communication from Daystar University, a master's degree in international relations and diplomacy from the University of Nairobi, and she's currently pursuing a second master's degree in international public relations and global communication management at Cardiff University in UK. Welcome, Madam President.
Thank you, John, Dr. John Ndavula, for that introduction. Seems you've said everything else that I needed to say, so I don't have much to do about my introduction. I want to say a very good afternoon to everyone who is joining at this time, wherever you are, whether you're in Kenya, you're in the UK, and all the places that you're joining. Welcome. So my name is Patience Nyange, as you already said. I'm going to take you through my presentation, which is going to border between my two, I call them my two titles. I call myself a journalist, I call myself a PR professional, depends on who I'm talking to. So when I'm talking to students who are in journalism, then I'm a journalist. When I'm talking to people who are in PR, then I'm PR professional. And I keep saying in all of these two professionals, personality begins where comparison leaves off. You have to define who you are, what kind of a career, what kind of a path you want to take, and that will lead you to the kind of profession that you want to and the space that you want to own. So Dr. John Ndavula has already given a background of my experience. The state started off about my time in Mombasa. And then I moved to Nairobi briefly. I did some work with KBC and internews briefly, maybe for about 6 or 7 months there about. And then later I went to Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. This was an exchange program courtesy of Association of Media Women in Kenya. And this is at the moment that I want to say for students who are joining in this, course at this time. Your professional engagement, your professional network is very important. Decide where you want to be. If you're going to be a journalist, for example, the women and the ladies, make sure you're a member of Association of Media Women in Kenya. Some of the opportunities that you get through life, like for example, my exchange program with the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation was as an exchange program, courtesy of Association of Media Women in Kenya, which is AMIC. And then I left Norway after 2 years and came back and worked for BBC Media Action as a broadcast mentor. And then after 8 years of my experience, I decided, okay, I think I'm done with this journalism. I need to move. I transited. So from journalism, headed to public relations. And this is what I say, most of the time as a journalist or as whatever career that you choose, whichever career that you choose at the beginning, you get there and in not so long, you feel very comfortable. So you're at home, you know exactly what you need to do. Your passion calls you every morning. But then that's the time when you're already in your comfort zone, you need to start thinking of making a transition or getting bigger challenges. So that's the time I asked myself, so after 8 years, what else do I do with my life? Where do I want to go? Luckily, in my undergraduate, I had done my minor in public relations. So I thought maybe it's a good move for me to transit from journalism to public relations. And therefore, I got my first experience at the Ministry of Devolution and Planning. I managed to work with the Cabinet Secretary then, Madam Anne Wiguru, for about 2 years, not 2.5, I think 2 years before she resigned. And then after that, I moved to Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, still helping in communications, worked as Assistant Director at the Chairperson's Office. And so what I'm saying is, have the courage to take risks, be fearless. All opportunities that are presented to you, you're able to navigate them as long as you have the move and you have the drive to do what it is that your heart calls you to do. Sometimes it's the fear that holds us. We just want to be in a place that we feel very comfortable, and this feels nice for me, so I do not want to move. But it's important for you to make the move when you want to make the move. And as a journalist who is probably transiting to public relations, is it important? Do I have the skills? Yes, you do. Your skills in journalism come into hand because PR, when you have done the transition, you immediately realize this. It's about people, it's about work, it's about the team, it's about the business, it's about the marketing, it's about informing the public, it's about messaging, it's about information, it's about you creating a brand for an organization or a brand for personalities. There's a lot that you can do. And most of the time, these contacts are actually contacts you have met during your working as a journalist. Most of the time, the people that you have and the people that you engage with are people within this profession. For example, you're engaging with politicians, you're engaging on a day-to-day with personalities, with CEOs of organizations, and these probably are the kind of people you'll be working with when you transit. So your key skills in journalism, writing, photography, don't take them for granted. Ensure that you have them and you can do them to your best. If you have to write press releases, understand how press releases are crafted. When you receive them, just don't try to look at them and say, you know, I'm just going to draft a story because I have everything. No, check through, how does a press release look like? What needs to be at the introduction? How is it informed? Where is the story at? This will be very key for you when you move in public relations. And so, the Chartered Institute of Public Relations define public relations as a discipline that looks into reputation management with the aim of earning understanding and support and influencing opinion and behavior. When we look at it, it's really about organization on one hand and publics on one hand. The public you have to define. It could be government, and with the public, which is citizens. Citizens of a given country, of course, are publics. When the government is communicating, then it's communicating, hoping that the information that they're communicating as government is going to be implemented and the citizen will be able to follow either its directives or the communication that is being done by government for the benefit of the publics. So it's a planned and sustained effort to establish and maintain goodwill and mutual understanding between an organization and its public. And this is not something that you do overnight. You create that kind of a business every other day and a model, and you have to keep thinking, who is my public? Who am I talking to? Who is it that I need to communicate at this time? And as you think about that, then you think of, where are these people? Where are they at? If you're going to communicate to people who are probably over 60s, are they on Facebook? Maybe yes, some. And in Kenya, probably yes. Are they on, and maybe not, you know? Which channels, is it which channel is their mode of preference? Where will you find them? And once you have figured out which kind of publics you're communicating to, then you choose the channels that you need to communicate to. And then the messaging, how you do it, depends, will determine whether your message has been received, whether the intended message is actually the message that has been received. This is something that you have to do, and this really is the business of public relations. On a day-to-day basis, you have to really think about your strategic planning. What is your organization, the kind of organization that you're working for? And if you're a person, maybe, you know, there are many people who actually are brands on their own. What is your vision? What is your mission? What is your what really drives you? Who are you? You have to really think through about the research, evaluation, and measurements and trend analysis. What is happening? Am I aligning my objectives, organization objectives, to the leadership that you have? Is the resource allocation that you have adequate for you to be able to channel the message that you really need to talk to the people that you really need to talk to? So think about things like crisis issue management, communication policy in place. What is it about? Good media relations. And that's what this is why I say, I know this is a big debate in Kenya. I'm going to bring it up again. We're always discussing whether a journalist makes a good PR professional and whether a PR professional is good enough on its own. So my thinking is, as a journalist, all the media background that you have and all the engagement that you have and all the understanding about your media engagement and your media contacts come really in hand when you're in PR circles. This is the time when you have sat down, and then I'm like, okay, so I really need to have a press statement, or I really have this information, and this information I need to channel it to KTN. I immediately look at my phone and I'm like, who is my contact at KTN? You at least know someone. Who is the editor there? You probably know someone. You've worked with them. They know you in person. So they know when you're calling, they will come to your rescue. Sometimes there are many times a story really is not balanced, and you really need to call to ask people, can I give a right of reply? Most of the time when you have this good media relations with the people who are seated in the media houses, this serves you a lot. And so as a media personality who's been in the field before, who understands how different channels or how different TV stations and media houses work, this will help you in future. Think about other things like relationships management. Relationships means it's not a one-man show. There's the need for others. You're not going to do it alone. You have to think about the society that you are in. You have to think about your audiences. You have to think about the community you're serving. Think about all public relations as a whole. Think about the media, think about the news, who else is communicating, where and communicating in what manner. Think about how you do a project. And every project, remember, will need to have a project accountant or a project management person who is going to be there to lead it from the beginning to the end. Financial investor, how much money are we putting? What is the budget required for this investment? Think about your community and all the stakeholder reactions. Every organization has various stakeholders. Have you mapped all your stakeholders? And once you have done that, then at what time do you need to talk to these stakeholders that are high influencers, these stakeholders that need just middle influence, and these stakeholders that really, these ones you have to talk to? And how do you do that? Once you have done, you put them together in a community and mark them, and then think about how you relate to them. Influencer relations, at times you have to do that. But then the big question has been, is, for example, social media influencing real influence? And there's a debate around that. Is influencers just a scam? Is it a fraud? What does it mean for you to, what is it? Does it mean likes when you post the post and then it has 1,000 or million likes? Does that mean really influence? So you have to think about who is it, the brand that you're thinking when you're getting into this influence relations and influence marketing, for example, which in communication then we call influence relations. In Kenya, I know most of the time, and they like to use this example for Peter Marangi, who is associated with Crown Paints. Most of the time when you see him, then Crown Paints, Peter Marangi is representing that brand. So when you're thinking about influencer marketing, for example, or influence relations, you have to really think, who is it, that person? Do they understand your values? Do they stand for the values that you stand? Do they represent the values that you stand for? Do they understand your mission? Do they understand your objectives? Are they able to speak in a language that attracts your publics? All the time you have to think about these things. Then the question of brand ambassadors as well. Which brand is as good as the people who deliver it? So and this is courtesy of the Institute of Public Relations. It says every time you're thinking about who is going to be a brand ambassador, you have to really think. So there are many opportunities for public relations and for students who really want to get into public relations. Part of them is you could really decide, I want to be a brand ambassador, or I want to grow a base of brand ambassadors. Then you have to really think about the trainings for brand ambassadors. What do they need? How do you manage people? And or as I said before, your biggest resource is people in public relations. Internal employee communication. What are the objectives? Are the objectives aligned to what is shared with external stakeholders? Most of the time, and most organizations forget that their own internal employees are actually the biggest brand ambassadors. So as you're communicating internally and you're thinking of communicating externally, think of how the messaging is done internally and think of how that brand is being communicated in your organization for you to be able to understand that even the employees that we have in this organization, as they go out there, they represent such organization, they represent our organization, and they carry the flag. So for example, for me, I sit here and I'm thinking all the time, when you go out, actually realize how big this brand ambassador notion is, because the moment you leave your country and then you find yourself in a small pool of not many Kenyans, for example, in Cardiff, then all the time you're not looked at as patients, but they think, oh, that's a Kenyan, that's a Kenyan. So you have to always keep thinking, what are my values as a Kenyan? What is our brand identity as Kenyan? Who am I as a Kenyan? So that every time you're moving, then you are representing your country. And so one of the things that I do and I love to do is to include my flag in every presentation that I do, because for me, this is exactly it. And this is exactly explains that I am a Kenyan. Even though I have left Kenya, I'm just away. But, everything about me, my spirit is in Kenya, and I love Kenya all the time. And so when you think about all the time that you're interacting with people and people are looking at you and you're representing a brand, you have to know that people really don't care how much you know until they know that you care. And as you do that, and as you engage with other people, you have to think about empathy, which we say in public relations, empathy is at the heart of effective communication. They're actually human beings at the end of every business. So every business decision that you do, and the good example is what we have had this week, and we were looking at them. The response concerning hospital alleged, let me use now, you see when you in broadcast, you'll always use the word alleged as long as you don't have evidence of what happened. So alleged negligence at current hospital concerning the death of Papa Shirandula. And then we have had the press, not really the press statement, but the response courtesy of current hospital, which has really been circulated, and people really have said this is really a bad show for public relations or how to handle a crisis, for example. Where is the empathy? And I like one person who is called Joshua Njenga, Mwalimu Joshua Njenga on Twitter, who's always marking press statements and statements from organization, and has been very generous to give them a 5 over 10. But the truth is, in such communication, look at it and say, am I communicating well? What is the issue here? Am I expressing empathy? Here is a loss of life. And here is a family that claims there's negligence. How are you responding? And one of the things I kept remembering, yesterday we had a conversation on Twitter, and I said the best thing to do is when you have written that statement is to look at it and say, if I was on the receiving end and I read this statement, what would I feel? And write down all the reactions and write down all the emotions that you feel and emotions that it sparks in you. And if you think there's something amiss, rewrite it. And the most important thing is leave it for people in communication to do it. If you have a communication officer in your office, let them do their work, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. If you're going to be in public relations, if you're going to be in media, think about digital communication. Remember, nothing travels fast like tech-aligned communication. And this is courtesy of a postgraduate course by CIPR, Chartered Institute of Public Relations. And they say, this is probably where the future is going to be. And this is where you need to be. You need to understand that there are many social media platforms. Create a community within an online community. Whose community are you part of? In Kenya, we know the Kenyans on Twitter is a huge community, is able to influence conversations, is able to change things in Kenya, and you know to have to, if you go on the wrong side of them, of course you understand what happens all the time. Try and understand, be tech savvy. If you're a comms person, be whatever you want to be that makes the brand that you have chosen to be in that space. The social media platforms, you probably find Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Decide who are you talking to. And if you once you know where the persons that your publics are, then stay in that platform. And also understand the narratives around each platforms, because each platforms communicate for different persons. So if you're going to be on LinkedIn, it's not the photos that you post on Instagram that now we see on LinkedIn. I know I've been bothered, but sometimes I go on LinkedIn and I'm like, okay, are we slowly transiting LinkedIn now to becoming another Instagram page, for example? You have to really understand who is on Facebook, who is on Instagram, and why am I communicating on Instagram? And this is work that you have to do as a student, or you have to do as someone who wants to get into communication and understanding the spaces that you want to be in. No one will tell you about this. Try and understand what are the technical digital skills that you need. Websites, lead generation, for example, what are the landing pages? How do you conduct webinars? What are your online ads? How do you do this? Think about the front end, the back end. You understand user interface. All these things are things that come into skills. I mean, skills and jargons and languages that come into play when you think about the institution that you want to belong in, or the platform that you want to be in. So as a student, this is your work that you have to do. You have to really decide where you want to belong. And as you do that, then you have to really think, do I have the relevant resources, or do I have the relevant skills? And now, when you go online, there's so many free courses. When you go to YouTube, you'll find something to learn about. Going on Facebook Live, for example, if you want to really be an influencer who is, on Facebook space, or maybe you want to be a YouTuber, whatever it is that you decide, get the skills and the right skills for that. You're competing at a global platform, and sometimes no one is going to excuse you that you don't understand. I'm a Kenyan, and in Kenya we don't have all the resources we want. We are not at where the UK is. That is a lame excuse, and the world is not going to forgive you for that. Okay. think about something we call brand affinity, overall positive statement about the brand perception, sentiment, and value. This is achievable. A lot of the time people say, all the time media are looking to take us down or to bring us down. You know, what do I do? You really have to try and ensure that throughout your process, every process that you do, your value statement, your mission statement speaks to about the brand that you want and the brand that you want to leave. So your understanding of your media relations, how you do your work, how do you commission your copywriting and editing, your PR programs that you campaign, whether they're going to be local, international campaigns, your events, your conferences, your marketing, your public affairs, who is engaging with journalists, who is engaging with the publics, how are you giving them feedbacks? Are you giving them an avenue for feedback? Even in your writing, are you saying, for example, when you write a statement, you need to think of giving at the end of the time and saying, here we are, these are our details. If you want to reach us, this is how you reach us. So think about all those things. And because I don't have really much over time, I want to end it here and to say thank you so much for your time and for the precious moment that you've given me, St. Paul's, to be able to talk about the transition between a journalist into public relations and whether the skills make sense. You can get in touch with me. These are my details. My email address is as simple as nyangep@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at Nyange Patients, Facebook Patients Nyange. I give my telephone number for whoever needs it and when it's really important. So I want to say thank you so much, Dr. John Ndavula. Thank you to Jackie Rubidi for making this possible. And I hope that I've been able to add value to this session. Thank you.
Wow, Patience. That was so informative. Thank you, and even for being willing to share your contacts to us. Now, remember to keep your questions and comments coming in the chat section. And in fact, our guests are already at it. They're answering our questions in the chat section. So just post it there, and we'll also table this at the end of these presentations. Keep also your tweets coming. Our Twitter hashtag is hashtag SPU Career Talk. Now, I'd like to recognize several constituents who have joined us today. We have colleagues from St. Paul's University. I've seen my dean, Dr. John Muhoho, Karibu Sana. I've also seen members of the KIMC alumni group. I'm also an alumni. We have Network for Media and PR Women in Kenya, and also members from Kisumu County. Now, we're also privileged to have today the CEO of Media Council of Kenya, that is David Omoyo. We also have Dr. Felix Orina from Kibabii University, and also Zipporah Simani, who's the Chief Program Officer at KBC. Karibuni. Our second guest is Ferdinand Omondi. Ferdinand is a multi-award winning journalist who works for BBC Africa as the Kenya correspondent. Ferdinand has 7 journalism awards to his name in tourism, environment, culture, and conflict-sensitive reporting. He has worked as a journalist for 15 years in local and international media houses. He's worked for KTN and NTV as a senior reporter and news anchor. He's worked as a sports news anchor and reporter for Citizen TV and NTV. And he was at the front line of the Tana River conflict and the war on terror. He has visited all 47 counties in Kenya while working on NTV's premier news magazine, The County Edition. He has interviewed top politicians globally and sports icons like tennis star Serena Williams. Ferdinand started his career as a newsreader for YFM Radio, which is now Hot 96. Karibu sana Fadi.
Yes, it's a great pleasure to be here. Sorry about that. So as it is right now, I am here on 2 fronts, but today I shall be wearing the gown of a journalist. To all the students at St. Paul University, I'm also now a student, just started my first degree. So as you can see, life serves quite a few interesting things if you stay focused on your work. So today, I'm going to speak about how I've been able to make it so far in my journalism career, just by the skills I got on the job and also from where I did my college work. And I'm going to try to present. I'm going to speak today on broadcast journalism. What exactly does it take? And it comes for a very long time. My short story is that I've always wanted to be a broadcast journalist. So I think a lot of the things that worked with me were that I was able to, align all my ambitions and everything I wanted to do towards journalism. Some of them were preparedness, some of them was luck, some of them was the hand of God, but I've been lucky to be there, to be able to do what it is that I can do right now. So then, who am I? A lot has been said about who am I, so I cannot go into detail of that, but yes, I'm a BBC Kenya correspondent with 13 years experience. Started working back in 2007. That's when I got my first contract, and then I've been able to visit 13 countries as a result of my work, and I'm a reporter for radio, TV, and online. So it means that when I am doing one script, I have to write it in 3 different formats and in 2 languages, English and Kiswahili. Therefore, it means that I have to be very good in English as well in Kiswahili. So if I'm going to speak about the coronavirus or what President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to say, I may end up writing 2 scripts for 1 story. Previously, those are the places where I have worked. I was able to visit all 47 counties of Kenya. Well, that is who I was. That is exactly where I started when I had this opportunity to be in media. A lot of you will remember this character who was called Mule as somebody who was in Tahiti High, and that was one of the careers I would have taken instead of journalism. But during those times, it was paying very poorly, about 3,000 shillings per episode, and you had to be in that episode to be able to earn. And so for a very healthy salary of 12,000 shillings a month, it was really going to work. So I ended up also now pursuing a career in what I wanted to do, which was journalism. This remains my backup plan or my retirement plan, either as a screenwriter or as a director, also thanks to the skills I learned where I was. And if you can see somewhere in the middle of this picture, that is exactly where it began at the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. That is way back, I think, in 2001 to 2004, with some of my classmates, some of whom are no longer in media in different aspects of their life, but I did pursue what I went to study for. So yeah, for you to be a good broadcast journalist, you need to get an education, and this is the purpose of studying broadcast journalism or mass communication, is that you will need to get the hard skills. And there's so many things that were taught over the 3 years, but those that were outstanding that have been able to help me do what I work right now is news writing. How do you go out to Kawangware and see people testing, and then how do you then go to Patrick Amoth and the Minister for Health Mutahi Kagwe, and he says, you can get it, I can get it, anybody can get it? How do you put that into context? So you need to learn the script writing skills. What kind of language will you use that the Minister for Education will approve of, and something that Ezekiel Mutua also will not get angry about the way you've written your script, but that will still be able to be digested by a professor and your grandmother as well. All this, and also by keeping it within the law in terms of learning media law. So news writing, this is where you learn all these formats. And of course, when you go out in the field, you find that different media houses have different styles of writing that is called house styles. But once you have the basics, then basically what will be changing is the format. Just like when you know Microsoft Word, doesn't matter whether you use Tahoma or Times New Roman, you know the rules of Microsoft Word. So news writing is basically the Microsoft Word of writing. And then when it comes to presentation skills, not only will you need to know how to write it, but if you're going to be a radio presenter, or you're going to be a TV presenter, or you're going to be a news presenter, then how do you dress out on the field? How do you walk? How do you talk? What gestures do you put? How do you have that on-camera presence that will be able to make you tell a story? Because there's one thing knowing what the story is, it's another thing knowing how to tell it. The other aspect of news production that you will have to learn also is also studio production, and this is where comes to the direction of news and the production of news. Especially if you're going to end up being a news anchor, you need to learn how the technical side of this work, so that when the camera tells you move left, I wish to tilt. When people speak about panning right, panning left, tilting, stand there, stand by, and all these signals put in the studio, and even out in the field. Sometimes when you are about to go live, you'll be getting directions from your producer, will be getting that directions from the director back there at the gallery. And these are some of the things that you need to have left your education already having known what they're supposed to be like, and that's the only way they'll be able to complement the kind of skills that you have. And of course, as a presenter, make sure that you have some time to learn how to present the news if you want to be a news anchor. One thing that I used to do when I was way back in high school, when I would be given a script to read, I was somebody who, even when going to read the readings in church as a Catholic, I would imagine myself presenting that thing in front of a camera, and I used to look like a crazy person then. But look where it's led me to when I joined the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication right from first year. It turned out that I was naturally talented in that, but it wasn't really talent on its own. It was talent and practice, because I'd known very early what it is I wanted to do and where I wanted to head to. So when you read your newspaper and you're hidden somewhere in your hostel or at home, take that thing, depending on the language you want to present when you get a job, and start reading and perfecting your diction and your pronunciation, and know how to bring out these words clearly. Audio and video editing is also very important, and different media houses do use different editing skills. So, for example, at the BBC, you use Final Cut. You go to other places, you find they use Adobe, but also you'll realize that the concept is the same. I don't know what editing facilities you use at St. Paul's, but this is something you need to know, because on the days when I used to work, for instance, during the county edition, there were only about 2 or 3 editors and about 5 or 6 reporters. Sometimes you would land out there on the field at 6 p.m. after traveling for a very long time. The first bulletin is at 7 p.m. and maybe you've just come back with raw materials. There will not be one editor to edit all your stories, and you have to edit it on your own. Here at the BBC, right now that we are working from home, I know how to edit my audio pieces. So when I do that, it then means that I am able to present these things on my own without depending on somebody. And the ability to be independent, as you will realize when you get into a media house, is going to be a competitive edge, where there's a lot of people, especially when it comes to a time when they need to cut down. They'll be looking at who has these skills, who depends on other people. And in a lot of media houses now, you hear that there are a lot of layoffs, and the convergence means that you are able to do different skills at different times. So learn audio and video editing. And right now, you don't even need a teacher. YouTube University has a lot of this where you can learn them. And research, how does research and proposal writing come into it? When you're going to do a story, for instance, on COVID-19 and how it has affected Kenya, there's telling the story and what is important, and then giving context. You need to sometimes trace how it came in from Wuhan, when the WHO declared it a pandemic. At what stage did they realize that asymptomatic people can also spread it around? What was the story of the super spreader when you tell something about patient 31 in South Korea and stuff like that? All this is based on research. So the research methods that you use here, it doesn't mean that you end up working at ipsos synovate. As a journalist, research is always very important. A lot of the time when people tell you accuracy is important, accuracy means that you have to get your facts right, and getting facts right is based on research. In proposal writing, here at the BBC, we develop our own stories, and that is one of the requirements. When you come to do an interview at the BBC, they'll tell you, so in case we hire you, then what stories are you going to do to us? They tell us, pitch us a story. And pitching, it means that you have an idea. So you want to go to Uganda, or you want to go to do an investigative piece in Tanzania to find out whether COVID-19 is really gone, or the government is issuing propaganda, and you have to prove that. You have to show that you deserve to go there. It means you have an idea. You write on what's called a page, what is the top line. Tanzania is doing this and this and that in spite of WHO warnings. Or in Madagascar, what is the effectiveness of the drug which they said could cure COVID-19? And you show us how you're going to do the story. You give us the people you're going to interview, and then you draw a budget. So proposal writing comes very important, whether it is a 2-minute story or a 30-minute documentary. Almost all the time, you will always have to pitch that story. And so once you get all the skills, and you find out that you'll be somewhere who will be very smiling a lot in the newsroom. That's a picture of me in my early ages before I gained a lot of weight. So those are just hard skills. So there's soft skills that then you need to become a presenter or a news anchor or a broadcaster, as you want to call it. And the first one that you will need to learn for soft skills is networking. And this begins right from campus. I got to tell you that how I got into citizen TV or rural media services was interesting. I had tarmacked for about 2 years, and I remember that since I was very good, my colleagues liked my voice, had a very powerful voice. I knew how to read narrations, and fellow students would ask me to do it to them. I knew that third-year students had been given project money, but students, they want to use that money for different things, and some of them did not even pay me. I read so many, more than 10, and I think I was paid, given token once or twice. But it is because of one of those projects that I read that one of the producers at Royal Media Services called me and told me, "Hi, Ferdinand, I remember you from one of the projects that I used to do. Can you please come here and do a voice test for a commercial?" And when I went in and did the voice test for commercial, that is when I was auditioned to do classifieds, and that is how I got my foot in at Royal Media Services. So if I had not yet made friends early from college, I would not have been able to get that kind of opportunity, because she probably would have called somebody else. And this is a call that came out of nowhere. So when it comes to networking, people think you have to go to these expensive dinners. It is the people who are next to you right now. It is the people who are speaking to you right now that you start establishing contacts with, so that when there'll be opportunity somewhere, somebody remembers you and the skill set that you have, which you're already displaying in college. So start practicing right now, and that's how you get to progress. The other thing that you need is resilience. As I've told you, it took me about 2 years to get my first full salary job. And immediately you leave college, you'll get a lot of people telling you, kazi ni kazi. You might have a master's degree, but kuna watu wa masters wa kwa mjengo. And it's very easy to listen to this. Please do not listen to them. Ignore them. Ignore them and focus on what you want. I tarmacked for 1 year going to Royal Media Services, and for the period where for 8 months I wasn't being paid and I was voicing this. If I had decided to give up, when you give up, nobody cares about what you do, and sometimes you wonder what might have been. So resilience is very important in the media industry. The other thing is patience. I wanted to be a main news reporter, but when I realized that the opportunity was only in sports, that is what I took at Citizen TV. And for me to get to start doing mainstream news, that opportunity came at NTV 3 years later. So giving up easily is not something you want to be doing very quickly or doing quite frequently in the media industry. It is very competitive, it is very cutthroat, and you have to bide your time. Versatility and adaptability is something that I have to brush through this very fast because of time. And this is about being able to do different things. I've already told you that I'm very good in English and Kiswahili. I've told you that I can do radio, I can do TV, and I can do online. I can script this very well. And depending on the situation that I'm asked to do, I can do it. When I was a sports anchor, I was asked to go do the county edition. During election time, everybody stops being a business reporter or a news reporter or an environment reporter. Everybody becomes a politician at that time in terms of political reporting, not taking political sides. So be very careful with that. And that is how you're able to adapt to the newsroom and do different kind of things. And then exertion. You've seen on Instagram people saying the grind, I'm on the grind. Well, let me tell you something. In broadcast journalism, your workday could be anything between 2 hours a day or 24 hours a day, especially during election times. I remember one time going to South Sudan when Riek Machar was supposed to return, and I did 18 hours straight, and the next day you're supposed to file these stories. So you have to have that sort of oxygen in your lungs to be able to succeed in this media industry. It can get really, 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 really tough, and you have to toughen up. And then there is about bravery. I can tell you right now that in my life, I have viewed over 200 dead bodies in my time. You go to accident scenes, you'll go to terror scenes, you will go to ethnic violence scenes, and you're the first person. The audience will see what has been edited, but you as a person will realize that you're the one who will have to see somebody who's being burned alive, you have to see bodies which are beheaded, and then you have to paint a picture that is sensitive to the audience. But you as a person, you realize that these things will later come back to you, and that's a story for another day. But you have to have the stomach to to see people at their worst behaviors or in their worst situations, or even to speaking with somebody who has lost an entire family which got burned down the previous night. So you gotta be brave. Or when you have to face up to a minister like Nyange and ask him those difficult questions which you think you will get arrested for after asking those questions. And once you do that, you can be able to have a good life. Like you can see, that was me in Mandera after about a 17-hour journey by road from Nairobi. And this is me now in Ethiopia. I was told recently that I was the only Kenyan reporter to have interviewed a Somali reporter to have interviewed the president. And so it means that the only way you can do that is by staying ahead of the competition. And one thing you have to do in terms of staying ahead of the competition, especially in this dynamic world, is that you have to keep learning. It is not just the KMC diploma that I have. I may have that, but my knowledge right now is perhaps higher than some people may study up to the master's level. Why? I've done so many different courses from where I've been. This is a certificate I got from Internews. I've done some courses at the BBC Academy. I've gone to study short courses in broadcast journalism, which was a seminar that I went to do in Sweden. So you have to keep on adjusting. There's new media coming in. The BBC took me to Senegal to learn how to broadcast using an iPhone. And so with only an iPhone, I can be able to actually edit and present a radio piece. That is how versatile you have to get. Keep learning, keep learning. And then remember to keep your audience needs first. The one thing that I always disagree with a lot of the way some reporters and presenters do it here, they want to make it about themselves. Always remember that what message am I passing to my audience? Because it is because of their approval that you'll be able to get ahead. And this approval should not be because of how you say your name or how you dress. It is what is the content of your story. There's a difference between John Allan Namu and some of these reporters who I refuse to mention for obvious reasons. And then you also need to be able to go the extra mile. A lot of people, the attitude I saw in some newsrooms when I went there, I would see somebody says, I'm being paid 30,000. I'm not going to stay here mpaka saa mbili usiku. That person who earns 100,000 is the one who needs to do that. And the thing is, when this attitude shows to your bosses, the secret, I always tell you this: if you want to get pay rise, if you want to get a better posting, you have to show you deserve it. You will not be paid to do well. You will do well, and then you will get paid. And you don't get paid by that employer, you'll get paid by the next employer who will headhunt you. And that is how I got headhunted from KTN, from NTV to KTN. And then you also have to maintain high levels of respect, whether it is the doorman or the person who is the waiter, or the office messenger, or your boss, or your colleagues, or the intern who comes there. Your attitude towards them will always reflect on your work overall. So always try to maintain high levels of respect, not just at work, but even at home. Have that respectful personality. That is what keeps you ahead of the pack. There's a lot of funny behaviors in the newsrooms, which you learn again at a later forum, but always try to stay above the pettiness and focus on your work and be respectful to everybody, and also have integrity. When you join the media industry, you'll realize there's a lot of brown envelopes flying around. If Patience Nyange is in the PR industry, she'll probably confess, and Atieno will speak to you later. There's some journalists who not work before they are given 200 shillings, 300 shillings, 500 shillings. And the problem is when you keep on calling these politicians for them to give you money before you do a story, yes, they might do that because they're desperate, but later on, you realize they speak about you to your bosses, they speak about you to prospective employers, and you cannot get a job somewhere like the BBC who will do a background check on you if you're somebody who survives on brown envelopes and faking stories and faking headlines and faking people and then writing sources could not be reached. So you have to maintain that level of integrity. And so then, is broadcast journalism for you? That is what you're asking right now. And I will ask you, how well can you talk? I can talk for hours, but what content do you have to talk? Previously, we would say you need to have a good accent or good English or good Kiswahili, but now there's Ramogi FM, there is Umaru FM, there is Inoro TV. So how well can you talk in the language you want to speak in? And then how good is your writing? Because journalism involves a lot of writing, regardless of what you're doing. Even if you're going to be a presenter, there has to be some writing involved. So perfect those writings right now exactly where you are. And then you gotta be creative. There's a way in which you'll present your story that will get you an award or not, or get you noticeable, that will be different from the other person. So not just he said, she said, but then how do you present it? How do you write it? How do you put it into perspective? How do you put that into context? And you have to practice that right now, different formats of presenting, different formats of writing, different formats of putting that story across. And then you got to make sure that the camera or the microphone is your friend. Some people will stand in front of the camera and freeze. So when you start doing practice right now, you will realize that it's not as easy as it seems. The moment somebody says action, a lot of you will freeze. The only way to get out of that is to keep practicing. And obviously, you will get a lot of attention from this. So if you're somebody who's a bit reclusive, this is not your career, because people will get into your private life. You will go out on dates and they will interfere with you, especially when you're about to propose to somebody in public. Somebody will come to want to hug you. They will discuss your social media. I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you see how public figures are discussed left, right, and center, whether it's real news or fake news. You are always under scrutiny. So be ready for that if you want to be in this kind of career. And finally, the opportunities. And then it's also very hard work. I've already stated that. So all the way from proposal writing to the end of the piece, it's a lot of work involved. So journalism is not appearing in a show for 2 hours. Jalango, for him to present that show at between 5 and 9 at Kiss FM, he will have had to make preps the previous day for 3, 4, 5 hours. And obviously, waking up at 5 a.m. or getting to work at 5 a.m., it means that by 3 a.m. you're up. So try and look at those aspects of your life that will really have to be affected. It's not a 9-to-5 job. And the opportunities, radio, TV correspondent. Please don't say you want to be a presenter. There's nothing like presenter nowadays. You will have to have some background of journalism and knowledge, and a lot of reading is involved into this. So that is the obvious one that is there when you say you want to be a mtangazaji. Those are the obvious ones that can be there. You can always go to the machinanis and be a regional correspondent like I did when I was a Mombasa correspondent, and I learned a lot. And then you can be a documentary or filmmaker, which I think Atieno will espouse more, so I'm not going to get into that. And then there's a new event that is coming in the new areas like content creation and blogging. There's very good travel bloggers, if you go and check on YouTube, are very respected. They have their own, and they only use, phone cameras can take you a long way, and you need to practice this, and so many apps with which you can edit, and they're making money from it. So you don't need to wait to be employed. There are very many opportunities in content creation and blogging. I know in Kenya we have the likes of Flaco. I'm just giving perspective. They're not broadcast journalism, but now that's what we call content creation. We have Aziad Nasenya, who's a student at, I think, the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. She may have improved the content by a twerk video, but there's still a lot of things that she does. So look at that perspective. They're getting creative and doing something, and they're already earning money. So how can you use your skills in terms of journalism to develop similar content in a journalistic way to also make money? And there's also a radio form of it. Not very many Kenyans are into it, but there's podcasting, recording something on your own, getting topical on something. People normally discuss a lot of health issues. There are podcasters who do on sexuality, there are podcasters on language, there are podcasters on Christianity. And that I know that there's a lot of people who will end up being in the clergy world here at St. Paul's University, and you can start a podcast. And then once you're able to get proper podcast, there's so many channels right now, like Netflix, there's Apple, there is Deezer, who will buy your content, streaming there. And as the more it gets popular, the more you are able to put your feet out there and make money from it. So try to think outside the box. Stop thinking I want to be hired by Citizen TV and BBC. Start thinking, how can I develop myself to be independent just in case I am not able to get there? So that is how to work your way out and become the kind of person that you want to be and call yourself a broadcast journalist. And that would be my presentation. Thank you very much. That is my Twitter handle. You can find me on Facebook, Ferdinand Omondi, and I am always very responsive because I try to check a lot of that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Fadi. True to Lupita Nyong'o's words, all dreams are valid. Thank you very much. That was very, very inspirational. Please remember to keep your questions and comments coming in the chat section, and we'll also table that, and I'm sure our guests are also responding to that. I'd like to recognize a few distinguished guests who have joined us today. We have Ruth Nesoba, who is senior editor from BBC Karibu Sana. Karen Wakoli, who is CEO of ELF, which was recognized by President Barack Obama. Welcome. We have Jackie Manyaga from USA. I know you might recall Jackie from our previous presentation, and she's even engaging with us in the chat section. Thank you very much, Jackie. We have Janet Sudi from the British High Commission. We have Nonsinzi, who is an entertainment journalist and TV host. Sydney Aburi, all the way from Cardiff University in the USA, Karibu, and some senior producers from KBC, Eve Kangai and Amos Ogwiri. Now, on to our third guest, Atieno Otieno. Now, Atieno is an award-winning media and communications specialist. She won the UNICEF Global Award for Children's Content in 2009. She was the International Emmy Awards nominee for 2007, and she's currently the Director of Communications in Kisumu County. She has over 15 years experience working with local and international media organizations. She was the production coordinator for ARD, German TV, and a correspondent for Dutch TV, Vipro. She was a presenter and producer at Citizen TV. She has a master's degree in international journalism from Cardiff University. She studied radio and TV production at the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, and she is a Radio Netherlands Training Center alumni. Atieno is also a DW Academy trainer and an adjunct lecturer at Maseno University. Very impressive, Atieno. Welcome.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for that introduction. I don't know if I need to say any more. Ferdinand is a colleague. He was my classmate at KIMC. We shared a stage, we shared an employer at Royal Media Services at some point, and we have been friends for a very long time. We've won national awards for Best Actor and Best Actress and Best Performing Artist. So Msitone Vivi, we are also artists. Like Ferdinand mentioned, it didn't pay. Back then it didn't pay as much, so therefore we decided to venture into other passions that we had. So we are discussing careers at Crossroads. And as you've heard, I've been a producer, I've been a presenter at Citizen TV. I used to host a program called Upambe. It was on arts and culture and lifestyle, and I did that for about 6 years. I produced the kids' content. I debuted their kids' programming unit with a program called Angels Cafe, which you have talked about, which won many awards. And besides that, I have also, by the way, besides that award, we have won the award for this Southern Sahara region in children's content production and African Union of Broadcasters, amongst many others. And you've also mentioned that I now work in the county government as a public servant. Who would have thought? I'm sure Ferdinand is wondering, how did you get there? Well, I did. So Patience discussed about PR, and that is basically what I do on a daily basis. So all she was talking about communicating the programs and projects at the county level, those are the things that I do. Now, here today, I'll wear a different hat, and that is of a producer. And that's not to mean I'm not many of all those other things you have referred to, and I've never stopped. Let me just share something on screen. This is, 1 minute, a production I recently worked on. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, it's coming. Okay, good.
Yes, so this is Taxi in Lockdown. This was in April this year, where I worked on a documentary for Dutch TV, VPRO.
The day I had a pickup from the airport from Imperial Hotel, they had given me a contract.
So allow me to stop it. And if you look at this, you will see where the other hat that I wear, that of a presenter, and I was correspondent for Dutch TV VPRO. So this was on menstruation. As you can see, it has 3.6 million views. Let me stop that. And let me just get into what it is that we're discussing today. What I'm trying to tell you or portray with these different things or hats that I wear is that You cannot confine yourself into a cocoon and say, I am a presenter, I am a sports anchor, I am a peer practitioner, I am this, I am that. You can wear as many hats as you want. So when somebody asks me, Atieno, what do you do? I always go like, who's asking? What would he like to hear? Okay, then I'll say, I'm a documentary film producer. Or I'll say, I work for the county government of Kisumu as director of communications, or I do this or I do that, okay? So I'll talk about TV and radio production, but mainly major in TV production. I'm sure some of the students are taking that or majoring in it right now in your university. And I'll talk about it in 3 different sets. That is pre-production, production, and post-production. At pre-production, my colleagues have talked about research. I know Fedi talked about research, and that's a very key part when it comes to pre-production. That is something that most Kenyans, I'm afraid, don't do. And if you don't research, your content will not be deep enough. So one of the reporters or journalists that we admire in the region is John Allan Namu. And if you look at his content, it is deeply and well researched. So when you come to the fore and share that content that is very well thought out, then your audience will not feel cheated. So research is a very important part of production. So even as you pursue a career in production, think about research. If you're going to talk to us about fashion, for example, I have worked as a producer for fashion content. So what is it about fashion? What are the trends? What are the, the trends of years of yore, and even the trends that will come? So what is, say, the O magazine saying about summer collection or whatever it is? All this needs a lot of reading. And somebody talked about writing as a skill. How can you perfect your writing? You can only do it through a lot of reading, a lot of research, and a lot of writing. Even with your Facebook posts, even if it's just 1 para or 2 paras, think it through. There's somebody always watching, there's somebody always reading your content. Someone like Beryl Wanga Itindi is now a contributor to one of the main dailies. And how did she get there? From her Facebook posts. Biko, we all know Biko, who writes, there's a blog, he runs a blog, and now he even writes for Msafiri, which is the KQ magazine. So such things get you somewhere. And still on pre-production, Ferdinand referred to proposal writing. You have to sharpen your skills in proposal writing, because in production, you're constantly trying to convince the executive producers and your production manager to pick your idea and finance it for you to actually actualize it. There is script writers. You might have to write the script yourself or actually engage somebody else to do your script writing for you. There are set designers. These are all careers. Production is a mishmash of professionals from different scenes coming together to produce content that is going to be watched by your audience. We're talking about casting directors, we talk about props, we talk about costume design, which you can start now. If you have a passion in design, if you have a passion in set design or interior deco, you can start now. Find out who's the producer of Tahidi High. Like they always say, yes, no, you have, but yes, you can get. So if you don't ask, how will you know? I'm lucky I started working as a TV presenter when I was still with KIMC, still a student at KIMC. But how did I get there? Because I was an actress, a stage actress, and somebody saw me acting on stage and invited me to Citizen TV for a screen test. So I was very lucky. By the time I had cleared college, Citizen were asking me if I wanted to work for them. And of course, that was a very rare thing and a very rare opportunity for me, and I grabbed it. And again, if you're talking about, we've talked about pitching, which Fedi referred to earlier. You have to perfect your pitching. You have to be good enough to give a pitch. There's something called an elevator pitch. How will people buy your idea? How will people, finance your idea? These are the people with the money. You have the idea. You are the creative brain behind a production. Let's go on to production, which is the filming, the actual filming. Who is the king of the set? The king of the set is a director. The director is a creative brain behind a production. That is a career you could choose and pick up as a producer. There is the DOP, the camera people, We have the videographers, we have the assistants when it comes to production, we have the lighting people, we have the continuity people, we have the boom operator, that is the sound person, we have engineers on set. I don't know about St. Paul's University, or if you have an engineering course that goes along with all the other courses. This is a very important course as well. Many shy from it, but the job opportunities in that field are numerous. Then we move on to post-production. In post-production, we have editors, we have animators, we have visual effects editors, we have voiceover artists, what Ferdinand was talking about. When it comes to post-production, people then reach out to people like Ferdinand Omondi. So all these are careers that you can pick up, and some of them you can actually start now. Technical competence is of absolute importance. Even as a producer, you need to understand what goes on behind the camera or in that camera. At Cardiff University, where Patience is studying right now, that's where we were taught to be video journalists. Therefore, you can carry your camera, go out there, film, come back, and script, edit, and do everything, and even record your piece to camera by yourself. That is the kind of versatility that we need right now. And then we have different levels, entry levels when it comes to production. There is intern level, which is also I would call it an entry level. Some of us started as interns, those who were talking about interning at KBC. There's technical level, and then that's where we have the technicians, the video camera people, the sound people, lighting people, etc. At entry level or as an intern, you can come in as a production assistant, floor manager, auto cue operator, sound assistant, lighting, props, all that. And these are the things that will then give you that pedestal to move on to the next level. Freddie mentioned he started as a voiceover artist. I started as a mere presenter, a host for a small TV program. Then slowly and slowly, I rose to the head of a unit, that is Children and Youth Production Unit. Then there's management. Now, in terms of management of a production, we have the producer, we have the production manager, we have the director, we have now those people, the big camera people called the DOP, the casting directors, production designers. And I urge you, whenever you watch content on TV or on film, as the film is ending and the credits are rolling, stop, pause, and check. So what's happening? Who are all these people that made this production what it is? It is very important that you look at that, because from there you can actually even identify a career path that you can follow. Then I want to talk about working at the counties. I know we are out of time. So I'll talk about working at the counties, where I work now as a director of communication. Thank God for devolution, because therefore we have 47 more production and communications units all over the country, pardon me. So you have 47 opportunities spread all out where you can work. And 470 communications professionals, because on average, a communications unit will have at least 10 people working in there. Take advantage of such opportunities. They advertise in all our local dailies. It is a prerequisite, it is in the law that when there is a vacancy at the county level, it is advertised for you to apply. And therefore, take advantage of that. And your roles are clearly, please, I would urge you also to get a hold of the County Governments Act and look at the role of public communication. Counties, communications officers have a role in there, and it actually stipulates everything that you have to do. Besides that, you can go in as a consultant for the county governments or an intern for the county governments. Start somewhere, just start. Okay. And I think Ferdinand talked about the endless learning. And I think you've mentioned some of them. I'm a trainer, and I've been a trainee of DW Academy, RNTC, Radio Netherlands Training Center, etc. So take advantage. There are free online courses that you can take advantage of. You can also go onto YouTube and learn skills like editing. It's all there for free, something you can learn on your own. There's content there on how even to perfect your writing. Go in there and read it. Right now, since we have all this social distancing thing going on, it's your opportunity to go in and do your own learning on your own. There's content, take advantage of it. How have I survived in this industry? I can say that you alone are in charge of your career. You alone are in charge of what path your career will take. And you alone are in charge of what content you consume around you. If you're going to stop on Facebook and just, check on people's social whatever statuses and comment and think about how many hours you spend doing that and how productive you can turn those very hours. Think about it. Also acknowledge that as a fundamental truth. You can't go on and blame your bosses. Oh, I did not get a promotion because my boss does not like me because I'm Luo, because of this and that. Please note, I rose to a senior producer level at an organization that is predominantly Mount Kenya. And I was a household name in my heydays. So therefore, there's nothing about or nothing to do with being Luo or Kikuyu or whatever. It is your talent that will get you there, your resilience, your focus as a person. Okay. And if at some point you get into an organization, and so somebody asking, how come so many people are losing jobs in the media? Well, if your organization is struggling, jump ship soon as you can. How do you do that? Look for other opportunities. I look for vacancies all the time and share them with my students and my friends, and be out there and look for these opportunities and apply and never tire. There are numerous opportunities. Another thing I can say is your organization's priorities are not necessarily you and your career progression. That is your priority. So make it a priority and work hard at it. And whilst working in an organization, even as an intern, come up with ideas, program ideas, project them, speak to your manager and air these things or how they can improve on the content that they air. And you know what content probably is missing. There's a gap probably in your area. And if you're a student, you can think of something that you can bring on board to make whatever programming content you have even more entertaining. Contentment. Contentment, I would say, is a warm style for eaters and sleepers. Never be contented. So if, say, Fedi had arrived at being a sports news anchor and said, well, this is it. Nimefika, I'm being watched all over the world or all over the country. Or if he's at BBC and thinking, wow, what else would anybody want? But Fedi is telling you, I am now back in the classroom and I'm studying for my degree. My first degree, please note. So therefore, if you're contented, the likelihood that you will grow is like nil. Read, write, speak. Read, write, speak. In class, everywhere. Read, write, speak. Your teachers will notice you. Your classmates will notice you. Other people will notice you. Those people like going live on Facebook for nothing. I mean, really, speak only when you have content. And when you do, everybody will notice you and they'll find it worthwhile to even put them on their channels. Think strategically. So I'm urging you to think strategically, take intelligent risks. I took a risk. I came down to Kisumu as a public servant, and I'm glad I made that decision. Like they say, fate favors the fearless. So you can only get so far by by taking risks. Okay. Again, just to finalize, the concept of career and workplace is changing very fast. And maybe when I mentioned that I was a correspondent for Dutch TV VPRO, everybody thought, who are those? I've never heard of them. I worked for them for 5 years and I never met my editors. And you can too. So the concept of career and the workplace right now is changing at a very, very fast pace. And now with COVID, you can be here as a correspondent for a TV station somewhere in Norway, never meet them, but work for them for years on end. Adaptability, versatility, agility. I've also been a radio presenter. I am a teacher now. I do it at Maseno. And because I don't know what will come, 4, 3, 5 years from now. So therefore, if it comes to, if you're a member of academia, you know, Dr. Ndavula, that you'll never expire, right? Okay, so it's very important that you're adaptable, and if you have skills, share them. Share those skills with your fellow students, with other people around you. And then you need excellent communication skills. I cannot stress that even much more than has been said before. Cultural understanding and tolerance. I will tell you a story where once I went to Pokot to film a documentary on gun culture. And when I arrived there, I was with 9 other people and they were all male. And we got there and nobody talked to me. And I was supposed to be there for 10 days filming this documentary, but according to their culture, a woman is too inferior to be engaged. Yet I was the head of this whole delegation. And what I did, I went and sat with the other women under the tree so that they could see that I had a lot of respect for their culture. And slowly they came to accept me. And that's how we were able to produce our documentary. The documentary is called Kakuko. It is online. Initiative and drive, that is in you. You're the only person who can do that. It's within you, and nobody will push you to do it. And if you don't do it, somebody one day will say, you know what, step, because other people have more drive than you do. They have a passion for what they're doing. Adapt or be left behind. That's just how it is. And people are asking why people are being laid off now. Sometimes you just have to adapt. Organizations change, leadership changes, and somebody comes in. And I remember one time I was only earning 40,000 shillings, and somebody else came in, I was being paid 400,000 shillings. Did I ship out? I had an option of leaving, but I stayed on. And I thought, that person has his own story and his own journey. You have your own. Chart your own path, and do not be jealous about your colleagues. You work hard at it and be consistent with what you do to arrive at that dream that you have. Now, media literacy, new media literacy, work on that, and transdisciplinarity. So you cannot say, I'm a cameraman, full stop. No, I'm a sound engineer, full stop. I am a producer, I cannot do anything else. I am this and that and that and that. Be very adaptable. So leverage on your strengths. In conclusion, I urge you to leverage on the different strengths you have. Even if you are a drama person, or if you can act like Freddy could, just work at it and keep doing it. And you never know, opportunities arise within those spaces. Start now. Don't wait till tomorrow. There is mobile journalism, there's social media, there's YouTube, there's blog, there's vlog. Build your own brand. Start now, and other people will notice. Flako amefanya, why can't you? And coupled with your degree, coupled with your master's, then you'll go places. Thank you.
What a guest. Very powerful, Atieno. Now, and I can see several people agreeing with me on the chat section. I can see my ding, Dr. Muho, saying, thank you so much, our presenters, for very powerful and candid presentations. Indeed, you have proved to our students that all dreams are valid. Now, also just to recognize that we have Calvin Jabedo from BBC Africa, Karibu. Thomas Bwire, who's an award-winning journalist from Habari Kibera. Thank you also for joining us. Now, let's take some of the questions so that I know most of the questions have been answered in the chat section. I can see Nyakundi asking, why are media houses terminating qualified journalists and engaging comedians who are not qualified? Perhaps I could direct this question to Fadi. It's a question that even came up in the previous session we had. So students are always concerned. Why should media houses perhaps engage mostly comedians who maybe do not have a degree or qualifications in communication?
Yes, this this is a very sensitive question. It's very tricky to answer, and I've actually there are two ways to look at it. One is that you study for journalism so that you may be able to put yourself out there on the field and to be among the best. But what exactly are you targeting? Take, for example, who did not study journalism? Jalango. Jalango did not study journalism. But can you make people laugh like Jalango? That's a question you have to ask. He's doing a breakfast show, and the skill set that is needed for that show is somebody who will make people laugh. You have a degree in journalism. Are you as articulate and as fluent and as creative and as spontaneous as Maina Kageni? All right. So there's a lot of focus on these aspects that require creativity in radio, which necessarily do not require skills in journalism. The part that you should be worried about is where you want to be a news reporter, where the bottom line you have to have. I do not know any comedian who is a news reporter. You tell me, there isn't. I do not know any comedian who is a news anchor. Of course, there are those presenters who have that natural ability to present and therefore became news anchors, for instance, the likes of Julie Gishuru. But remember that Julie Gishuru is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, so she is highly skilled and highly learned. There is a lot of space for you who has studied, and you always have to. And this, I'm going to tell you from what I learned. People used to tell me hakuna kazi media, but when people keep on telling you hakuna kazi media, how did I get that job? How did Atieno get her job? How did his patients get their job? How is Francis Gashuri in a job? There are those who will be laid off for different reasons, and this is where you need to be very careful. Media is shrinking, especially in terms of revenue. Advertisements are now going to social media. Flaco and Aziad are taking endorsements, and well, she's not in media anymore, and influencers like Betty Kialo are now moving to YouTube channels because they can attract commercials there. And when these media houses cannot make enough money, then they have to shrink to the number of people that they can afford to pay and keep the houses running. So it means that not only will you be taken on the strength of your skills, but also on your ability to do different things at the same time to be beneficial to that media house. So don't just focus on being able to present on TV. What else can you do, especially for the online platforms? At the BBC, we are moving mostly to go digital as well. A lot of our programs which are doing very well, and the posts we do, you can see us on Twitter, you can see us on Facebook, you can also see us on where we broadcast, but the overall drive is to move closer and closer to the digital world, because that's where the audience is. And therefore, we've also had to retrain ourselves to be able to give out the digital content. And that is why I tell you, I'll be able to broadcast for TV, but I can also do that very same story for Instagram. So you need to be focusing on what you are able to contribute beyond your degree, and then stop worrying about these other people. There will always be roles in media that do not require papers, okay? Then there are those that will require papers and additional soft skills. And a lot of the time, it is the soft skills that keep you in the job and not what you learned in the academia.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Very clearly put. Maybe just to thank everyone who's tweeting. Actually, we are now trending at number 8, which is good. Maybe a shout out to Paparazzi, social media manager, Y254, and our students, Michael, Peter Mwema, Brian, Stephen Wanjohi, and the others. Thank you very much. On to our next question, and it's very direct. I'd like to put this out to patients. There's a student, Paulette, who's asking, can one get far with only a diploma? Patients?
Okay, Paulette, to answer your question, my first question to you would be, why do you want to stop at a diploma? And I want to believe that your answer would be, you want to stop at a diploma because that's where you are now, or probably don't have the funds to go to proceed or to get higher education. This is what I want to tell you. By all means, get further education. The opportunities out there. Many people always go, I don't have the money. Why will I get the money to do this? Yes, they are fellowships. They are scholarships. They're out there. You just need to keep applying and keep applying. And a lot of people apply that they miss it maybe at the first instant. And then they're like, but I've tried to apply. I've applied maybe 5 times. I didn't get it. Please don't despair. Apply as many times as you can. Chevening scholarships that are for masters will be opening on the 1st of September, which is going to be in the next like 2 months or so. I think, September, 1st of September. And many people, I just want to say that because I got it, you can get it. Just the same way we see, the famous Kenyan brand, you can get it, I can get it. So, because I got it, I believe you can get it. Just be in the spaces. Find out what are these scholarships looking for. prepare yourself adequately, do your thorough understanding. This requires this, you'll always get it. There are many opportunities out there. Ask people who are in these spaces, what are the available opportunities? Don't reach usifike maishani, and don't stop. Just like Ferdinand has said, there are many opportunities. The thing is, make yourself indispensable. If you're going to be in public relations, for example, or any communications, or even in media, what are some of these skills that are required? But you going back to school, I'm going back to school, and most likely I'm going to do another, and I'm going to go back to school again and look for another master or look maybe for PhD. I'm not going to stop. The thing is, every time you go to school, you learn something new. You get to understand what are the latest trends in that skill set or within that profession that you are in. So then that gives you an opportunity for you to be able to compete with everyone else. And for me, my Kenyan people is always try and ensure that you're a global trend. You're a global material, if I'm going to say that. So you're not just looking at your base and saying, I'm Kenyan, and therefore I can only operate in Kenya. No, you can be a global trend, which means you can easily work with other global organizations, even if you're in Kenya. But then you have to think of how do I compete with those people who are in a global space. So that way, that is something you have to do for yourself. Check out the roles for people, international organization, UN and the agencies, Coca-Cola, or all other international brands. When they advertise for communication officer, what are they looking for? Just look for those job descriptions. They would easily give you a hint and a clue. This is what needs to be done, and these are the skill sets that you need. So mine will be for me to tell you, please don't stop. There will be reasons for you to stop, but do not. Even for many women who stop probably to now start family life, and then they go like, now I have a child, how do I balance this? Look for a way to balance yourself. It's so important, ladies, and it's so important for young women to be able to really get an extra degree. When people are having PhDs, not one, not two, and you have a diploma, where do you stay? But the thing is, as Ferdinand has said, there are many other opportunities that don't need the papers. So decide where you want to be. But even if you decide where you want to be, when you decide you're going to be at an international space, for example, or you want to hire a job that requires the papers, look for them. So my answer would be, all the time you get an opportunity to go to school, please get that opportunity. You do not have the money, not everyone has the money. We don't have the money all the time. But the idea is, look for the opportunities where they are, whether scholarship, fellowships, get yourself educated again and again every time you get an opportunity.
Thank
Let
you,
me just add
Patience.
one more thing. Just one more thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Briefly,
especially for the students. Please do not be afraid of layoffs. They are part of life. Even at NASA, I believe sometimes people get laid off. I got laid off back in 2009 at Citizen TV. And from then I got a new job 3 months later that was paying me twice what I was earning at Citizen TV. And even right now, there are those who have been laid off and have got jobs in less than a week. And those who do not get jobs in media have succeeded elsewhere, somewhere else. If you look at Twitter, there's somebody called Caleb Karuga. He was fired by K24. He became a farmer, and that is where his skill set was. And now he's a millionaire farmer and has even been contracted by Safaricom as a mentor. So don't let layoffs scare you. These are challenges that will surmount wherever you go. You focus on what it is you can do and keep improving. Opportunities will always find you.
Maybe can I just add something so that
very briefly,
yeah.
okay.
I know most of us as students, you go into journalism school with an idea, you want to be a TV presenter, or you want to be an anchor, or you want to be a presenter, and sometimes it doesn't come. Please always be versatile and spread your wings. Be open for all the opportunities as long as you have all the skills that's required. So that's what I just wanted to answer.
Yeah, thank you very much. And already from our questions, even in the chat section, we have people who are making offers. Like we have Thomas Buire, who has made an offer of mentorship in children reporting. So if there's anyone who's interested in that, you can get in touch. Maybe the last question on to Atieno. There's David from Embu County who's asking, how can I improve the reputation of my workplace? And I think that goes hand in hand with another question that had been asked by Vicky, who was asking, is organization all about adding value that matters to an organization? Okay, I think you can take that.
Okay, let me start with the one about adding value. I mean, then why are you hired if you can't add value to an organization? Will you be just warming seats? You need to be able to add value to that organization for them to retain you. After all, they are spending on you as well. So what is it that is you're bringing onto the table that is different, that is innovative? As a person or as a professional. Someone from, that was David Moremi from Embu County, how you can improve the reputation of your organization, and that is Embu County Assembly. And I know Patience went on at length on this. She talked about your contacts. Do you know the media organizations in your region? What kind of relationship have you built with them? A case in point today, I had a function far out of town. We had a conference on COVID and how the county can respond. And the county was engaging stakeholders in the business community and in the civil society. And I called people personally, someone from radio, someone from TV, someone from newspaper. These are people I have worked with. I have built my relationship with them. And sometimes, like, people refer to the brown envelope. Most times I don't need the brown envelope. There is camaraderie or friendliness between us, and therefore they're happy to support what I do. And they don't look at me as the government. They look at my position and what I'm about, because this is all development communication, and that is what I'm pushing. So if you want to grow this region together, COVID, for example, is something that brings us all together. Find that common ground with all these radio stations, TV stations, newspapers, and build it. Pay courtesy calls. Just stop by Standard or your bureau chief in the region. Say, hello, how are you doing? My name is so-and-so, and this is what I do. Therefore, the next time you call that bureau chief or a reporter in that space or at Standard, they will know who is calling. And they'll be happy to come and support you. And they'll be happy to write about whatever it is that you're doing. Besides, social media has opened up the space so widely that you can lead and coin your narrative as befits you, as per your communication needs and your strategies. I hope you do have a communication strategy, which then gives you a broader picture of where you want to go. Where are you headed as an organization? What is your mission and your vision? What is it that you want to communicate? Then what is your plan? How do you get there? Do you know the different segments of audiences? There are audiences that prescribe to social media, whereas there are audiences that only consume traditional media. We're talking radio, TV, and print. Therefore, how do you reach them, and in what language, on what platform? Choose the right platform for the right messaging. I think that's all I can say for now.
Thank you very much, Atieno. Thank you very much to all our panelists for sharing personal stories about your career journey, which were very insightful. And it is said, what is the use of running if you're not on the right road? You will run a long way on the wrong road, and that's not helpful because you have to go back. I'm happy that our guests today have pointed us to the right road in our career journey. And now we can take off and run without fear. After all, Kenyans, we are known as the finest athletes in the world. So select your career path and run your Ineos 159 challenge the way Eliud Kipchoge taught us. I wish you all the best in your chosen careers. Asanteni sana